In general, state regulation for e-commerce comes from the state's commercial laws, and as you know, each jurisdiction, each state has its own long-arm statute, which grants jurisdictions under certain circumstances. And from a constitutional standpoint, the full faith and credit clause allows a state to accept and enforce another jurisdiction's judgment or court decisions. And in fact, in California in 1997, a case was brought up, and the court held that online vendors cannot accept payment until and unless there is disclosure of refund policies, addresses, and customer service contact information. So there are specific guidelines, and if they're not followed, they could be in breach of state or federal law. Now, moving along to international e-commerce, the UNCITRAL model law on electronic commerce is relevant here. It establishes uniform application for e-commerce regulation. It's intended to overcome obstacles arising from statutory provisions. And the link that I provided at the bottom of the slide or under this section provides you with more information. Also, the International Consumer Protection and Enforcement Network, also known as ICPEN, establishes or it has been established for governments and organizations to deal with issues related to cross-border transactions, and their website is icpen.org. And another website, which is econsumer.gov, it's a governmental website, and it's basically where you can provide complaints or submit complaints against companies that are violating some kind of e-commerce transaction or e-commerce guideline. You can also report international scams and learn more about the steps you can take to combat online fraud. In reality, in essence, it's a partnership of 36 consumer protection agencies around the globe. We were on the next slide, which is entitled International E-Commerce, continuing on the international regulating bodies, including the European Union and the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, also known as APEC, which have passed different kinds of e-commerce regulations. The nations that have the great economic impact have established their own national e-commerce rules and regulations. For example, they can include China, UK, and Australia. But from a general standpoint, it's recommended that all businesses that are aware of where they conduct business and understand the rules and regulations to be up to date on the regulations. So if you're a company established in the US and you're doing business in Canada or China or otherwise, you want to make sure that you understand the different e-commerce rules and regulations for that jurisdiction.